Anyway, look, today I'm giving a talk from zero to almost hero using GitHub Actions, towers of automation and deployment woes. So look, I've been a user of GitHub Actions over the past year, and let me tell you, it's been quite the journey. I've learned there's no better feeling than having your code automatically deployed after a successful build. And I've also learned that there's no worse feeling than having your code deployed automatically after a failed build. But hey, at least I got to experience both. So a little bit about me. Look, the views in this presentation are my own personal views and may not reflect reality. I started originally as an infrastructure guy, originally graduated in mining engineering, and then kind of there was a slump and kind of pivoted. I wish I'd kind of learnt the other way around and been sort of a dev first and not an ops guy, like, because who needs to know how to configure RAID arrays and do twisted UTP, like orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, like kind of all that stuff is kind of redundant as the knowledge and value has gone up the stack. My coding skills are still fairly poor, but thanks ChatGPT, you've got my back now. In my past life, I was a cloud consultant spent a number of years working through a number of different household sort of brands like Qantas, Telstra, Sonic Healthcare and that. I got all the AWS accreditations back in the day. And then I joined 86400, which is a neobank, which did quite well. We went from inception to buyout in 3 years. Sadly, I didn't have large shares to get vested. And it was a bit of a lesson for me. If you're going to be in startup land, put your hand out and make sure you kind of make sure your value is kind of recognized. I was really proud of the brand, 4.7 in the App Store, but since that merger and acquisition, let's just say it hasn't been so great. But that was the time for me to move on. I joined Fox probably about April last year. My title is Senior Cloud Architect. However, I feel like I act more as a DevOps kind of evangelist, kind of has a ring to it, but maybe advocate. Kind of, I consult to different teams like Mitch and some of these other guys here, and I focus sort of more on helping develop a velocity. And I kind of also wear an operational hat from all my time, sort of building that 86 brand. Outside of work, I got 2 young kids, and I'm a mad keen waterman. And you'll find me sort of surfing, kite surfing, doing anything that I can to kind of maybe get away from the family, but just get wet. Look, I've just recently started wing dinging. That's that kind of weird thing where you hold a sail and then a board and carbon fiber and a foil underneath it. Really frustrating, but I guess why do I mention it? Don't be afraid to learn, try new things. I think that's about personal development and just advocate for that. About Foxtel, look, multiple business units. So there's like Foxtel, there's Fox Sports, there's Fox Media, there's Fox Broadcast, there's StreamMotion. And StreamMotion is, I guess, a cloud native brand that was kind of born in the cloud that has the brands you might not be familiar with, like Binge, KO Sports, and a new sort of product called Flash, which is kind of real-time news kind of aggregation. They've adopted the Spotify tribe approach. So they're in the StreamMotion division, which I can speak more in depth about. There's at least 100 devs. There's 2 SRE teams. There's kind of like a AWS specialist and then a Kube specialist sort of team, and then there's an ML data team. Large Kubernetes deployments, if you can imagine, like trying to scale for events such as F1 and things like that. So like heaps of Kube. But it's predictable, right? So we know when there's going to be an F1 event or the grand final, unlike maybe Rocked, where you guys are probably a bit more kind of dynamic for Black Friday or those sorts of events. So a bit more predictable as far as scaling goes. Tools, love talking about tools. Scepter for AWS provisioning, Argo CD for kube changes, and Terraform for any IAC. Look, I missed a question. I feel like it's one I would love to ask. It's kind of like before we go into CI/CD tools, it kind of like this is like a nerd dating question. What kind of tools do people here use? Like, just kind of show of hands. Jenkins. Anybody still using Jenkins? Yeah. Okay. Azure DevOps. Okay, yeah, GitLab. Okay, GitLab's quite well represented. GitHub. Okay. Oh, okay, predominantly. Okay, that's probably not unsurprising. Bamboo. Anybody bold enough? Oh, right, okay. And Bitbucket pipelines, kind of. Okay, haven't made the transition from Bamboo. Okay, interesting, cool. No, I just think that helps kind of set the context and stuff, like, because we're going to be going kind of, yeah, a little into CI/CD, and it kind of like each platform kind of has its own nuances and what have you. Look, GitOps, what is it? Sort of just kind of level setting for different people that maybe aren't kind of totally au fait with things. So we kind of want to make sure that all changes that are in Git are kind of that are propagated to a specific environment branch or within the environment. So that gives us benefits such as declarative config, version control, roll forward, roll back fairly easily, automated pull operations, continuous sort of reconciliation if you choose to enable that. Like, yeah, that's probably a maturity thing. And then there are different ways to kind of do GitOps. Like, I don't want to go too much down the rabbit hole, but I feel that the infrastructure changes reflect most closely to the GitHub flow approach for infrastructure changes, where we kind of short feature branches, we kind of merge back into master and try and not, it's certainly not trunk based. So but it's just that nuance about, when are you deploying and what have you? Is it after merge or before merge? And there's a few challenges around that, but we'll talk about that. For app changes, what we're backing into in the near term will be sort of Istio with feature toggling. So Istio will be to cut over. So we'll deploy N+1 release and be able to kind of, I guess, control the deployment of said artifact, N+1 artifact, and then the feature toggling then to kind of release that to customers. And there's a whole other discussion. Oh, what does a feature toggle? Is it a deployment? Is it not? Like, anyway, you can see I'm kind of, can be passionate about different things. So what we're going to talk about a little bit is GitHub Actions components and capabilities. I'll kind of then level set kind of a bit about GitHub itself. So the various components, there's a workflow, events, actions, jobs, runners, and deployments. So now hopefully, oh God, I can't see that. Okay. Oh gosh, you're looking to whiz read me. Oh, that's not going to be great. I should have dry run this. How do I get up onto that screen? Oh gosh. Sorry guys. On that screen. Oh, okay. Well, we're just gonna have to wing it. So workflows themselves are, I guess, a YAML manifest that sort of describes how all the, so there's the jobs, which are, I guess, stages of a particular activity. Events are the GitHub kind of, I guess, events or what we can kind of associate or trigger our deployments of action or whatever action off. Actions are kind of like pre-bundled functions or libraries. Runners are what's used to execute, and deployments are the actual deployment activity. How on earth am I going to?
Alan's there. You might be able to help you.
Alan, sorry, can you help me? Just God, asking for tech, but yeah.
Where's the demonstration?
So I'm throwing to that other screen, but I'd like to show VS Code, but maybe, oh gosh, I can't do it easily, can I? Okay.
It's mirroring.
It's mirroring. Okay, so let me just go for.
Zoom it in.
No, that's all right. I'll just try and find. Oh gosh, you're gonna have to see what my bash history is. Is that, have I done it with a 3 Rs? Yes, I have. Thank you. Okay, so plan. Okay, so here, this here is scrolling up to the screen. Oh God, is it? Which screen is it on? It's they all put by default to the left. Okay, cool. Bear with me, guys. Bear with me. So here, this is a workflow, and then you can see here are the jobs. Then there are different stages, and then when we do a users, that's an actions component. And then up here, you'll see a runner runs on. So that's the type of, I guess, deploy kind of container that you're using. What else did I talk about? Deployments. We'll look at it a little later when when I link to different things. So so back to here. So the large number of events supported. So scrolling back to here, and now is this can actually, of course it opens on the other screen. This is why I think one of the reasons why I'm really compelled with GitHub Actions is, well, anything that triggers a workflow, like there's hundreds of them, and it could be like a PR. So if you look at it in the open source community, like a new committer joins a project, there's a template to welcome you and what have you, and it's like, wow, that's really in depth and kind of extensible. And so like I'm a big advocate like for, hey, how extensible it is when it comes to sort of events. There's a concept called Composite Actions, and they're kind of, I guess, reusable workflows that you can kind of then parameterize and what have you. Conditionals are kind of helpful, where you, if non-prod assume this role. I'm going to probably not do so many of the hyperlinks given the shifting and what have you. Needs, so that's a way of sort of ensuring that previous steps have been completed before you do that specific, I guess, job. And matrices. Matrices is a concept where you can do loops. Like, so imagine you're trying to build different different Docker containers for different sort of x86 or what have you. You can kind of just use that. Code owners, I really like this concept, whereby depending on the path that you're making changes, you can denote specific reviewers. So I don't know, do other platforms have this sort of concept? I'm not too sure. I find it pretty powerful, and we've actually extended upon that, thanks to Mitch here, to use it for a concept called environments. And so code owners here, you can kind of see, based on the path, we get different GitHub user groups to kind of be able to approve it. Why is this good? I'm a big advocate for monorepo because it's less config for me to manage. Like, things don't need to be kind of all over the place. Oh, that phone was switched off. So then the concept, then we've backed into monorepos a bit of late, and then we've kind of extended it thanks to Mitch using this environment. So whereby deployments, which I hand waved to earlier, is that's the process where you I guess deploying some code, and that's kind of and typically you might want to have a specific sort of approval group to sort of say, hey, that change is good, it looks good in production or what have you. And so our implementation of environments is to say, actually, in this monorepo, we've got the data lake team, they want to approve their own stuff. It's about kind of self-serving and giving out to different your different sort of communities and empowering them. Back on to, okay, great. I think I'm learning to drive. Okay, GitHub Actions level 200. I guess, look, CI/CD pipelines, as all you know, is like a really critical service for all the devs. Why host and manage that yourself? At 86, we ran Jenkins, and it kind of did the job. But I hear people ask, well, what about outages and service interruptions? And so I don't know, those GitHub people here might remember, like last Friday at 10:37, everything dropped out of the sky like for about 2.5 hours. Now that was unfortunate, but for me, no longer the platform owner, happy days. I was kind of like, I could work on other things. And so like, yeah, that to me is like outsourcing your platform, like is probably the most powerful kind of tenet about sort of CI/CD to my mind. Automated workflows, look, yeah, remove repetition. Us humans, we fail, like, leave it to the machines. Easy integration with GitHub kind of makes sense. I believe it, like from people in the industry that I've been talking to, I believe it is the strategic platform from Microsoft. So that I feel is another compelling reason. So Azure pipelines DevOps, sorry, from what I understand, is actually pretty good product, but I believe that at Microsoft, the target platform is GitHub Actions. So I feel like we're onto a winner there. Oh gosh, I haven't. Oh, support for multiple OS, so Linux, MacBook, and what have you for those runners. So maybe you have to do something with Swift, God sake, yeah. But at least you can't do it in any other environment. Well, you can with GitHub Actions, right? So flexible and customizable, open source friendly. Look, I love leveraging the community's work, and I'm trying to advocate that Fox kind of open source some of the things. Like I think we can only succeed by sharing and kind of standing on the steps of others' shoulders. Large sort of community with sort of plugins. So I know, like, I'll quickly show you if it's working in this space. Yeah. So you can kind of, there's the GitHub marketplace, and you can kind of just search for whatever component, whatever thing you're trying to do. I don't know, let's say ECR scanning. I don't know, just guessing here. No results. Okay. Okay, should have pre-canned this ECR. Okay, so look, I can kind of, and then I try and do like a most installed and try and that gives me, I guess, other people's sort of, I guess, where, so this login to ECR. So I don't have to go and write that stuff. I always love kind of trying to leverage the community stuff, because all this testing and writing and maintaining it, then when Amazon release a new API or it changes, like, why bother? Like, seriously, just, leverage the community stuff. And look, I don't represent GitHub, but there are other integrations like Dependabot and security scanning. Dependabot, bit meh. I'd love to talk to people who've had some experience with that, or renovate over a beer later. What does our workflow look like? So here we've got master. We cut off master, and then we do some local commits and testing. Pre-commit checks. If you're not doing it yet, like, let that just be the first takeaway. Like, all about trying to expedite feedback loops, pushing the experience closer to the devs. Pre-commit hooks get you out of a lot of trouble, whether it's YAML linting or whatever, like Markdown, Terraform docs. Like, there's a lot of really good, solid things to improve your quality even before you've got that PR raised. You raise the PR, then you do some automated testing, add a group of PR reviewers, as we saw by CODEOWNERS. Then we go into that feedback loop of reviewing the PR, responding to the PR, and then so we talked briefly about pre-commit hooks, and then we'll merge. And on that merge, we'll look at sort of currently we do an automated deployment into non-prod, and then a staggered deployment into prod, and we may have 2 prod environments, and that will be with conditional approvals by the application owner. Automated. Okay. Oh, I'm on that screen. Great. Okay, that's helpful. So what are we looking at here? Oh, so this is just fanning out in parallel. So I was able to do 64 jobs there, of which, most of them passed. Oh, sorry, I'm not meant to hand wave there, but scrolling up and down. No. Okay. Anyway. Trust me, there was a lot of deploys that were done in parallel there, which was kind of helpful. So delayed but automated prod, which I've sort of suggested to the Herb. So we use this pattern for Argo diff. We present in a PR, and then Argo sync upon merge, Scepter deploy, or Terraform apply. Again, opportunity for secret scanning and Dependabot you can kind of do here. Okay, GitHub Actions execution. Thanks, Mitch, for the joke. Hasn't really landed, but so PR enrichment. So this is about, I feel like this is an example of kind of some of the stuff that we surface back to devs to help the reviewer. It's all about trying to reduce the cognitive burden for the dev, right? So here we can see, what can we see? We can see, actually, there's going to be a modifier on this. Is it going to be replaced? False. Thank goodness. Okay. Is it on the latest version? Great. I get a tick for that. And then, like, a bit similar to Terraform Plan, this is Scepter. And it's sort of based off CloudFormation with some wrappers and stuff. But you can kind of get the same sort of outcome as a Terraform Plan. So that makes that job as a reviewer kind of, much easier. I'm much more inclined to kind of feel, oh, hey, I'm going to approve that. Cool. What are we doing next? Okay. Yeah, we talked about that a few times. Manual deployment. So yeah, conditional approvals for prod, like you can't just go and like there may be a requirement for you to update that stack, it's corrupted or what have you. And so we've got a prod approval. Concurrency, look, this is a concept which is helpful when propagating changes to infrastructure as code. You don't want your colleague to be bladding your changes. And so concurrency means you can limit the changes and order them such that you're not kind of overstepping on the first one up that's been merged will get applied, and then it will wait. The next job will wait until that previous job has been done. I guess the only learning there was about doing it down at the job level so that it's unique per the job or file. So you can see here, I've made it in this matrix, and I don't mean to hand wave. I will explain matrices a little bit later, but this is kind of doing it for that specific resource and kind of ensuring that we're kind of not propagating two changes out of succession, kind of to that file. Implementation. So yeah, we've got this, in order to expedite developer velocity, we've said, hey, you know what? Anything that's in this mono repo, anything that's under /dev, auto approve. I don't think we're backed into auto merge, but that's a suggestion shortly. Anything for non-prod, just one approval, and anything for prod, we need 2 approvals. I guess back to kind of, I guess, to avoid collusion and what have you, just good practice to have at least 2 PRs, a good opportunity for, I guess, upskilling other peers and what have you, and general good hygiene. Yeah, so this allows us to propagate changes quicker with the appropriate sort of level of control. We've written it such that you can't dummy up a change in dev and sneak through your prod changes. It's smart enough to go, actually, it's an or condition, and then we'll go, actually, no, I need your two approvals. Okay, matrices. I've hand waved a little too much about this. Let's see what does this hyperlink reveal. Okay, so here what we're doing is we've been looking for all the files that have changed with all the working directories within the dev folder, and we're going to run them parallel as a loop. And elements here, what else are we going to we're not going to stop, like we're going to let in dev, we're going to let them all go at the same time, and we don't care. What other things was I going to mention in here? And fanning out in parallel. So yeah, what does that look like in execution? Back to the joke. And I've got it decided now to put it over on this screen. Okay, consistency is key. Okay. Apologies, guys. I feel. But see what we can see here, we've been able to do this deployment in parallel to different environments, and anything that was with this prod apply would have had the conditional sort of, I guess, yeah, would have required the approver to do it. One thing, oh, thank you. Avoiding inputs. So I think inputs is an anti-pattern. I know it's a bit controversial, but like Git should be the true source of the changes, right? Let's not have to go to GitHub logs and GitHub sort of runner logs. Like I just feel like, hey, we've got the 2 approvers, so we're reducing collusion, and we've just got the one place to kind of look for changes. So examples might be, hey, I might want to select a different binary to install on this Amy. Well, why don't you put it in code? And then you can kind of see who requested that and what have you, and then just report. That's the truth. Back to GitOps sort of principles. That's the source of truth. If you do have to use inputs, where we use them, for example, is you may want to manually run a scepter diff or a scepter deploy. Oh, thank you this time. Okay, and then we put pre-populated inputs. That's just, I guess, a basic kind of tenet of good coding. Just making sure that they're pre-populated and kind of less chance for error. Okay, just checking time. Okay, well, I don't think I'm doing too bad. We're kind of up to that hill, and then you got to the top, and then there's another little bit up there. But we'll get there. Okay. So how do we tighten that feedback loop and make it super tight? Local dev is always helpful. There's this NPM package called Act, and what that does is it allows you to, okay, lets you to run the actions locally. So and so the feedback loop with GitHub Actions was like 2-3 minutes. That's not bad, but it was killing me. I'm like, fuck, man, like you're messing around with stuff. Excuse me, I should have made an MA warning. I may swear a couple of times through this, but yeah. Anyway, so here, what I'm doing is I'm using the act package, and I've got an action, so I'm going to push the workflow I'm going to use, and then I don't know why it's P. It should be R for runner, but yeah, but the runner, I'm going to be kind of using a specific runner. And here, what I'm using is to ensure that I've kind of, you can put in your own one by all means, but then, it's missing Node or it's missing Terraform or what have you. This Cat the Hacker image has pretty much all your tool sets. And so yeah, you're just sort of dumbing it and tightening your feedback loop. You don't need to worry about, what image am I using? Like, this is just to help you test that the workflow itself is working. And then you have to provide a GitHub token. Thankfully, I don't think that's going to be displayed in this recording. And so here I am executing it. And it kind of gives you all the debugging steps. And I think it's quite a helpful sort of tool when you're trying to work out, well, what's wrong in my action? Like, was it the push event or what have you? So you can do custom sort of things where you provide a JSON to do a specific condition for a pull request where tag was blah or what have you. So it is quite extensible, and that feedback loop was much quicker than me pushing a dummy commit up to GitHub workflow. So I wish I'd learned that sooner. Okay, Jira integration. So as a DevOps sort of, still don't know the title, but advocate I'll use today. Measuring things is really important, right? So yeah, and I've been doing some work on DORA metrics, and it's like, well, like you can get cycle time and frequency out of your pipelines. Let's leverage that. And I think a lot of shops here would have the Atlassian suite, and I felt this is quite a nice little for free kind of thing to help you. Okay, back to the other page. But this allows us to sort of see, hey, you can get, clicking this magic insights button, your deployment frequency and cycle times, right? Okay, so again, for free, kind of nice. Most people that have Jira comes for free. And now you can see the different environments. So it's even picked up that this is prod data lake, but it's still, if it's got the word prod in it, hey, that's a prod deployment. So I think that's quite helpful for free. I'm lazy. I'm trying to get stuff that exists without kind of reinventing the wheel, and I'm trying to advocate that all activities should be driven out of GitHub. So your Argo diff or your Argo sync, for example, needs to be a GitHub event. I haven't won my launch darkly sort of debate about feature toggling as to whether that's a deploy or not. But yeah, I think we should be pushing it back to that one system. Most used plugins. So back to that thing about the community. Look, the path filter for conditionals, very helpful with monorepo. Changed files, again, those go hand in hand. And the pull request commenter. So an ability to post whatever the content you want from the output of your jobs back on. Great, but when you're debugging, don't debug the bit and comment out the pull request bit, because you'll spend like 3 or 4 hours trying to work out why this thing doesn't work. It only works if it's a pull request event. I was like, oh, push. Where's my comments? And yeah, couldn't get them. So again, I hope I might just save at least one of you a couple of hours with that little tip there. Rerunning a manual workflow dispatch. So that's where you might be selectively sort of deploying a specific branch. It can be helpful when you're testing sort of change the GitHub sort of actions. Make sure that you reselect it and don't just do last rerun. So it's something about atomically. So even if you put another commit in that branch, you've got to go back to it. It's not going to pick up the last change. So you got to go back and reselect that branch, and as opposed to rerun job. I would have thought rerun job meant, hey, I'm rerunning that branch, but it's atomically at that commit. Monorepos, okay, yep. I briefly spoke about that. Yeah, look, don't I guess optimize too early. Again, probably good engineering practice, everywhere, but by So when you look at using components, typically you kind of source them from an external repo. However, if you need to make changes, you've got to make changes in two places. So you want to be pinning in the source and referencing that specific version. Now, yeah, so I'd be advocating for putting them all in the one repo and building until you've got that product that until you've got a requirement for another repo to use that library at such a time, then you take it out to a private GitHub Actions kind of repo and you can source it there. So again, in similar to this, use an incubator repo, and an incubator repo was a concept whereby we kept breaking kind of our main repo because we're trying to do fancy things around GitHub. It's like, oh, why don't we have another one that's kind of closely resembles and we can break it, like, and people won't get shitty. So yeah, like you use that, like it's yeah, it was kind of just quite a helpful sort of way. Slack integration probably, yeah, no brainer. But yeah, just trying to surface info where the devs are. Devs are either in Slack or the IDE, hopefully. Yeah. There is a GitHub Slack app, which can become quite noisy depending on how you do your sort of how you do your distribution of your reviewers. Actually, on that there is a feature to do round robin matrix for a user group. So user group is a GitHub sort of, I guess, group of reviewers that we referred to earlier in CODEOWNERS, and you can kind of use load balancing metrics like least connections and round robin, and that means you can kind of start to empower devs and say, hey, take ownership, as opposed to, oh, that broadcasting, oh, hey, everybody review my PR, by kind of sort of using the round robin or the least connections. You can kind of try and level up people's kind of sense of responsibility and not kind of, oh, somebody else is reviewing it. So those two things were quite helpful. Limit the use of GitHub secrets. Yes, look, source them dynamically. Like your cloud service provider has, they've spent a lot of time trying to do secret management properly. So there's auditing, centralization, rotation that you kind of get for free. Don't sprinkle them into GitHub. I know it's easy too, but yeah, it's just like auditability, and then rotation stuff becomes a bit of a challenge. Here, if you're using Terraform, a good pattern is you can data source it, and then you can use it as your API key, where you can kind of then go, okay, cool, and then I can change that credential, next run will be okay, and I don't have it leaking into GitHub. And then, which environment is that secret in? Like, yeah, there's caching a Terraform provider and state, like just kind of good about sort of tightening feedback loops and kind of expediting things. Badges and labels are pretty helpful. There's a good little thing here for Terraform comment where just kind of can see, hey, easily, oh, green, no change, cool. Red, bad. Yeah, there's the destroy in there. The support team, I've had to open up a few tickets. They're pretty responsive. No AWS, but certainly no Akamai. Yeah, so a good blend in there. I talked about that workflow dispatch before. GitHub groups, so we talked about that, which is good. Yeah, so the PR action, so we talked about pre-commit. This is about validating or enforcing that you've got linting before you send it to the machines, like that it's properly linted, that you have a description, your naming standards are good. Why is naming standard on a branch helpful? Because if you put the ticket number, then you get the integrated Jira sort of deploys out of Jira and stuff like that. Yeah. What else? Oh, limitations. Contains expression doesn't support regex. It starts with, and yeah, but doesn't, and contains but no regex. Public roadmap, which I think is really great idea, but obviously a lot of people are getting in space. They've kind of stopped that. Workflows are limited for 35 days. Probably shouldn't affect too many people, but like if you were looking at propagating that change to maybe 2 prod environments, like that we've said before, you've got to get it done within 30 days. But I think that's good hygiene anyway. Artifacts are only stored for 90 days. Don't store artifacts, for God's sake, in AFS. Like, yeah, like if they build artifacts like ephemeral, store them in GitHub. Sorry, I haven't been reading my comments. I speak too much. So you'll be glad I haven't read all of my other notes. But yeah, artifacts, put them into GitHub Actions if they're ephemeral, build stuff, and then they're gone in 90 days. And you don't have to worry about that AFS mount and the AWS spend that you're going to have to pay for the bloody AFS. Max execution time is 6 hours. Yeah, and some stuff. If you're trying to do this composite actions where you're trying to do matrices, you're getting into a bit of problems. So presentation is now over. So now time for you guys to ask me some questions, or else let me open up ChatGPT. Any questions? I know I went through a lot of content. I'm sorry that I was. Yeah, I didn't give you a warning on that. I was going to go quick and not necessarily deep, but it was about, hey, I'm pretty passionate and I kind of wanted to share the breadth, not necessarily the depth. And this is the depth time now, depending on time. I don't want to cut into the next presenter's time, but yeah, definitely want to take maybe 3 or 4 questions.
Before you ask
that.
All right, so great presentation. That's good. Now, how you said you had the LinkedIn, because they're a good LinkedIn engine to do, basically to capture not only backcoding, syntax, comma, etc.
Yep.
But also can do static security checks.
Yeah.
So what I've done in my previous organization is we use a tool called Megalinta, open source. So and we deploy on the CI front. So the first stage.
Yep.
And then if it fails, then you know what's happening there. But your idea to have it pre-commit. Yeah, it runs on the local computer. It's even more go to the left. I think the combination both of two can stop for any devs or DevOps person to make sure your code is legible and has a sounds formatting, things like that. So I just wonder if you use the same principle on that.
Yeah. So the principle is, hey, pre-commit. So we have YAML lint in there with a predefined kind of config, which like, gosh, single double quotes is always a bit of a problematic kind of problem to solve. I definitely got some opinions on it, but yeah, there won't be that one config, like when you go down to that nuance of, is it single or double quotes, you won't get, but indentation, like is it 2 or 4 spaces, like, yeah, get those primitives right and definitely push it back into the pre-commit so that, so that the devs kind of, don't tell them about the no verify, but because you don't want to give them the exit, but yeah, I would suggest just moving it. Yeah, take that. What project was it? Megalinta. Okay. Oh, I should have a look at that. Yeah, and you said it had some security stuff in there as well.
Yeah. So Megalinta, it had different flavor. So the big one is like a 600 image Docker image. So it's quite huge.
Right.
Of course, you want to cache that.
Yeah.
But let's say depending on your code, let's say you have Kubernetes-based code. So it has a flavor called Kubernetes. They have the YAML linter, JSON, bunch of stuff, and for security have checkoff. It has same.
Oh yeah.
It's
cool.
Can be very comprehensive, very noisy, but you can tune it out, configure as you need.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think how we've solved it is we've been using is Anton Babov. He's done like a big advocate in the Terraform space. He's done kind of TF-Lint, Teradox. So all of those are available as pre-commits. So we kind of do them, run them there. I'm not running them up in the pipeline at this point in time, but that's like Terraform's kind of my passion project at Fox. So kind of not a Terraform shop. I'll probably lean into putting it up there in the near term. But yeah, thanks. Good suggestion.
Oh, shut up.
Hi, just a question about the monorepo. Want to kind of clarify the value of having monorepo that multiple teams share?
Yeah.
Okay. Giving the, like, as an example, if you get your GitOps repo that each team owns.
Yeah, so we're on the journey. So it started and there was a prod and a non-prod repo for an account. We have over 100 accounts. And I was just seeing a lot of repetition and kind of like, I need to make a change to an IAM role across all of these. Like, that's like 100, 200 PRs. So I was easily able to sell that dream for AWS and Scepter sort of changes. Now we're backing into Argo, and it seems, talking with the app devs, different teams want to do it different ways. Maybe they want it per tribe within that mono repo. Like, so there might be, they're per squad within the tribe, and they might want to have, but all the tribes, all the squads part of that tribe, they've got to agree on whether it's environment first or project first and then environment. But we're using Helm template and stuff like that to help kind of, I guess, ensure consistency instead of copy pasta of YAML kind of JSON all over the place. We dry it right up and then use hierarchical sort of inheritance to kind of make sure it's consistent. And then you can go, oh, per cluster config comes down here. Maybe prod is slightly different. It's got a JVM config is the same throughout, but environment parameters are different per cluster. I don't know if I've answered your question. It's a journey. Each team, each squad, like, so one tribe want to do it environment based. And then when I met with the other tribe, they were like, no, that doesn't work for us. So I think you've got to just be flexible, but I'm not going to be saying, hey, these two tribes have to work together. You've got to kind of work out where's that soft spot where we're trying to meet. It's that trade-off between standardization and adaptability, like meeting the customers where they are, if that makes sense.
I think I need to clarify context. You said you have many accounts, like 100 accounts. Does that mean that you have the same deployment in all of these, or they are just owned by different account per team, something?
Oh, so the intent was some roles need to be the same. So maybe a governance account that's and it's really difficult to make it consistent when you've got it propagated over 200 repos. So that was just about AWS config. So we've bladdered that all into, not bladdered, but it's taken a little while, but we're there now, and we have it in quite a large repo that's made up now of non-dev, non-prod, prod, and then within prod there'll be, I don't know, 60 accounts or something like that. And then we can go, oh, actually we need to make a change to a foundational transit gateway kind of IAM role or something like that. And boom, one PR does the whole lot. And then with that fanning out, dev, hey, it goes and deploys in dev. Don't change the tags on transit gateway, it causes it to recreate. So, but then we can propagate that change easily to dev without, and then to non-prod one approval, and then to prod, like that owner can kind of then go and release that change when they want.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Hello. So I had two questions. They're sort of related. So first is obviously, you were talking about actions, but then you also made a point of mentioning Kubernetes and Argo CD. So like the push versus pull, and how much is AWS Terraform and how much is Kubernetes Argo CD. A bit on that, I'd be interested. And related to that, you obviously have linting, but there's like security kind of checking, like you can kind of tick the DevSecOps box.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to what extent is that here? And do you do it at pre-commit? Do you do it as a test? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, no, good. So the first one, so the Argo, originally devs have been doing manual Argo diff and then manually Argo syncing. And I'm like, oh, man, that just seems counterproductive to GitOps, right? So I proposed an approach where, hey, on non-prod, we're going to be automatically syncing into two clusters. So we have two clusters typically. Well, for important workloads is two non-prod clusters and two prod clusters. That's about blast radius reduction and what have you. And so we'll propagate it automatically into non-prod. You'll get the diff, you'll get the Argo diff off there, and we'll do some linting and validation. All right, that this spec of this API will be outdated in the next version or what have you. So we're trying to put some of that. As far as, so I'm a big advocate of driving that Argo sync from GitHub Actions, because then I'm reporting on it on the deploys back in Jira, and it's consistent or deterministic, right? Like I want to make devs read only on all Argo and enforce sort of GitOps approach as opposed to humans. Your second question about security, look, it's not an FSI, so it's kind of, compared to my previous role, it's probably not, we're on the journey to make it a first-class citizen. We do have things like Yelp detect secrets and a few things in the pre-commit, but there's definitely room to move, like ECR, like started talking to dev leads today about breaking builds, and they're like, no. And I'm like, well, no, we're going to have to do, like, it's not next week, it's not next month, but I guarantee it's before the end of the year. So it's a journey, and yeah, we're not where I'd like to be, but hey, it's also the industry that we're in. It's not, hasn't been as, yeah, I guess deemed as important as shipping features.
First of all, thank you for the presentation. My question is about manual deployments
Mhm.
and approvals. I'm curious if you're doing that on GitHub or I don't know,
Yeah,
something else.
yeah, yes.
I know GitHub has deployments, but last time I checked, I didn't see a way to manually deploy.
Oh, so it's called a thing. So we have in here, gosh, sorry, excuse me, trying to drive. Maybe I need even stronger glasses. So we've got this kind of manual, so we can kind of do manual plan, and then here, so it's called workflow dispatch. And then here I can kind of do, I'm going to see all my dirty laundry here, but so then I'm going to do, hey, so Confluent non-prod, I'm going to do non-plan on that, and then it's going to go off, and so we can do that. It's not recommended behavior, but there may be some stack that might be corrupt, and you might need to redeploy it.
Right.
And so this is kind of, I guess, the lever that you pull to enact a manual action. It's called workflow dispatch, and you can kind of put in drop downs and stuff like that. So that Terraform plan is going to, yeah, hopefully demo gods be good. But yeah, we'll be able to see what the output is from that. Sorry,
And-
did I answer the question?
Yeah. So the first half is answered. The second one is approvals. Is that part of GitHub as well, or
Sorry,
the manual approvals for
No,
like
no, no,
production?
So that's property of environments. So there's this concept called environments, where you can kind of set up, and now you're going to, but it's down here.
Mhm.
And so you've got this concept where you can kind of create prod. Okay, so you have a protection rule. So we say, hey, for prod, in prod, there is a protection rule, and that means that I'm going to need an approval, and then the approval's got to be this group. Okay, so that kind of is your, I guess, your gate check on making that prod deployment.
So they would get a button on the
On the
Right.
GitHub app, yeah, we've also got the Slack integration going. Okay, this is ready for approval. In fact, I think I've shut Slack, but yeah, like it's our Slack kind of AWS thing is probably AWS deployments is probably not similar to everybody else. It's just kind of like the hyperlinks of what are the deploys, and what are the deploys, and gosh, I don't go there all that often. Is it AWS deployments? That's it. And so you can see here, begging cat with oh, I better not say, oh God, what am I doing there? Okay, I've asked Mitch to do some work.
Asking for a run.
Yeah. So yeah, so you can see here are all our deploys that are coming up, and we're again back to surfacing as much info about that, and then hyperlinking back to whatever the approval is, and that's the PR. And then I presume if I go to the link to the run, it shows where somebody could kind of do the approval. Oh, and I hope that wasn't me. Oh, Arthur. Okay. But yeah,
Okay, cool. Thank you.
cool. Any other questions?
Questions, guys? Yes.
Cool. Thanks, guys. I know it's long, but yeah, thanks. Hopefully you got something out of it. Cheers.
Thanks.
I guys have a 5-10 minute break, grab a drink, grab a pizza, bathroom if you need.